Bernard says his mic is not working.
Oh, okay.
Oh, your camera's working. But no, I see you talking, but I can't hear you talking.
I had that problem the other day, and I was took me about 20, 30 minutes to fix it.
It looks like we're on.
Hey, my computer was trying to make me use 365. That's why I want to upload those forms.
I mean, it's trying to make it. It's not letting you.
It kept saying that I need to enable 365, which I don't want to do.
Oh. What version of Windows do you have? You have a you have home or professional? Or?
I had professional. Not sure. I mean, that's the new computer, the one you.
Here. I think there was an email, right?
Hmm?
I think we got. Oh yeah. So a few questions via email. I just saw it.
I seen them. I seen them.
Okay.
Did you do it? I didn't get prompt.
For the live stream, yeah, we're up now.
We've got great news for seniors.
$137? Class 137?
Yes, 137. I need my glasses for this. That's what he said. That's what he says. Network is struggling today. All right, it's about 12:15 now, so let's go ahead and open up today's session with reciting prayer for spiritual workers. Welcome, everyone. And for those members of their society, happy New Earth Year. Earth Year 60, I believe. Prayer for spiritual workers. Almighty God, I bless all those who, because of their limitations, would smite me. Almighty God, I bless all those who, because of their weakness, would not heed me. Almighty God, I bless all those who, because of their ignorance, would defile you through me. And I ask, Almighty God, O wondrous power, that your strength may be given to me now, so that I might be fortified by this, so that I might go forward bravely into the world, and despite reception, send forth my love of thee throughout all races of man. Almighty God, give me the power and strength to rise above my karmic weakness, the deficiencies in the pattern of my evolution, so that I might evolve and become stronger, I, and even stronger in thy everlasting light. O God, thy will be done. All right, everyone, welcome to Open Discussion and Various Topics class number 137. We had a brief break for a couple of weeks. Some of you may know July 8th was last week, and we celebrated the holiest day of the year. And also took that Sunday, the 9th, off. Today, we will be picking up where we left off in our review of Metaphysics 101, Class 2. So let me hop over to our YouTube channel and show you where you can find those classes. My view is going to be a little bit different from yours because I am the administrator for the channel. So if you go to our YouTube channel and click on playlist, and then what's the word? Scroll, there you go. Scroll down a bit. You'll see Metaphysics 101. Click on view full playlist, and you'll see the two videos that comprise this series of classes. We covered class 1 already, and we're making our way through approximately the first 30 minutes of class 2. Going through a transcript, as well as inserting some updated notes, handouts, and answering any additional questions that you may have regarding this material. We'll be continuing our review of some of our earlier lectures. The next one we'll jump into will be 21 lessons of metaphysics. And I also want to do the metaphysical lecture series for beginners and the Tantra Yoga lecture series. I've actually been getting quite a few questions from you guys regarding Tantra Yoga and Laya Yoga. Apparently not many people know or have actually heard of Laya Yoga. So I think we'll actually we'll look at the Tantra Yoga lecture series. There's about 6 videos there, and we'll look at the systems of Laya and Tantra Yoga, because I'm getting quite a few questions on Tantra, Laya, and specifically how the yogas, defines Tantra Yoga as the looming together of the yogas, how the yogas loom together and work together as one complete system of union with God. So I will take some time to go over the Tantra Yoga lecture series, as well as the look at the Systems of Leia and Tantra Yoga series as well. Very briefly, in the Tantra Yoga lecture series, there are 6 videos, starting with the mystic knowledge of chakras and kundalini, and then going into a deeper dive of the symbolism of the chakras in Tantra Yoga. We may skip the open discussion class here. Well, I'll go through it to see the nature of the questions that were asked there, and may cherry pick a few of them for us to go over. But I would like to go over this series again, as well as the 3 videos in the Tantra and Leia yoga series. So when you have opportunity, please go back and review some of these earlier lectures. Again, we're finishing up Metaphysics 101 over hopefully over the next couple of weeks. Then we'll move over to 21 lessons. Well, that might actually take a while. I would like to do the Metaphysical lecture series for beginners, and then also go over the Tantra Yoga and Leia Yoga series. But you're welcome to view any and all videos we have. And if you have any questions or comments, or like access to certain literature that was presented in those lecture series, feel free to email us or to ask those questions in a future open discussion. And we'll be happy to address those for you. All right. That's that. Do we have any questions or comments? We do have quite a few questions that were emailed to us, but the floor is now open. So if anyone has any questions, feel free to post them in the chat. I will read them and we'll answer those for you. Let's see. Meantime, let's start with the questions that were sent to us. Here are a few questions. There's some things that can be seen in the... Oh, okay. So these are questions specifically pertaining to the 12 blessings. And let me give you, there's a couple of websites you can go to if you're interested in the 12 blessings. Go to 12blessings.org, which is a website hosted by the Ethereal Society, specifically dedicated to the practice of the 12 blessings. And you can also go to the Ethereal Society website, ethereus.org, where they have pages dedicated to the 12 blessings, as well as in the shop you can pick up the actual transmission of the 12 blessings given by the Master Jesus through the mediumship of Sri Yogi Dr. George King, and a series of lectures that Dr. George King gave on the 12 blessings. You can also pick up the book on the 12 blessings, which includes the transmissions in there and the prayers that we use when we perform the 12 blessings and in other services such as prayer power. Nehemiah does have a series on the mystic knowledge of the life of the Master Jesus, life and death of the Master Jesus. He has another series on the teachings of Dr. Sri Yogi George King. Actually, let me show them to you as I'm talking about it. So if you, again, on our playlist, I scroll all the way down. These lectures were given more than 10 years ago, 11 years ago, maybe even more than that. And if you do go back and review these lectures, you'll have to forgive me at the time. I was just learning how to use a camera, using a handheld camcorder that my mother had purchased some years ago. So the audio and video quality may not be up to a standard you're accustomed to, but if you listen closely, you can still pick up everything that Nehemiah is saying and presenting. If you have questions or if there's enough requests, I can talk to Nehemiah about reproducing or redoing these lectures. One being here, the mystic knowledge of Jesus' life and death. That's one playlist here. It was a couple of classes. I don't believe I got all of the classes back then. I think there's more that Nehemiah covered back then. And then there's teachings of Dr. Sri Yogi Ricci, where Nehemiah goes into several of the lectures, which are available for purchase at theosociety.org website. And Nehemiah goes into a bit more detail about the lectures. I see more videos here because, again, I'm an administrator, but there are several videos that are private. And if you would like access to those private videos, you can give me an email, send us an email, and we'll take care of that for you, if permission granted. And then there is let me see, another series here. Sorry, I'm hearing something in the background. I'm looking for it. There is a series that Nehemiah gave on the science of prayer. I don't see it. Oh, here it is. Okay. The Miracle Kit of Prayer Power. So sorry about that, guys. On the science of prayer, he also goes into a lot of information about the manipulation of subtle energies. The Miracle Kit of Prayer Power is a good series to go through. As well as other series that we have here. Okay. So let me move into the questions that were emailed to us. And then from there, if there aren't any additional questions, we'll springboard into the review of the transcript of class 2. First question says, at the end of the 12th blessing to the galaxy, the Master Jesus says, preserve this one for its allotted time. Then, O Jehovah, Lord of Lords, transmute it into the center of centers within thy mind. This seems to say that the galaxy goes back to God. Is that right? I've heard Dr. King mention that even a galaxy cannot go back to God because it has not yet transmuted matter. Can the galaxy go straight back to the absolute while it is still being held in the mind belt? It's kind of confusing a couple things there.
Yeah, so the galaxy known as Jehovah. In the Bible and other books, the Torah, when they spoke of Jehovah, they were speaking of the galaxy. The galaxy is a Lord of creation as well. And the galaxy helps to create the mind belt as well too, and maintain the mind belt. I think I gave a series of lectures. I know very complex. I gave a series of lectures where I broke that down because I know, being a part of metaphysics since birth, a lot of people seem not to understand that. But if you study, especially study the teachings of Dr. George King closely, and the teachings of Arthur Avalon, Swami Vivekananda, and Swami Sivananda. They really go into it, into their teachings. So, but it's coded. A lot in the old books is coded. Dr. King kind of uncodes it. Him and the Cosmic Masters to speak through him, and it really makes sense. So yes, the galaxy gives life to all life within its body. We live and move and have our being within him. And that's the galaxy, that's Jehovah. So the energy, the laws of creation, they created the galaxy, the supreme laws of creation. They gave birth to the galaxies. And the galaxies gave birth to trillions upon trillions upon trillions of life forms on all levels, from the cellular life form to the human life forms, or humanoid life forms. So, or intelligent sentience. So they, we use their passageway to express ourselves from the absolute. And the teachings tell us that they are waiting and helping us to move down into involution and back to evolution, meaning that we will fall down into gross matter and then raise up from gross matter into subtle etheric matter back to the God level again. So if that helped you understand, it's too much to go over in a few minutes, but I think I have multiple diagrams showing that and many lectures talking about it. You want to add anything, Dwayne or Bernard?
No, I think that's pretty straightforward.
Yeah.
Okay. The next question. There are super galaxy clusters. We are in Laniakea, which must also be a living being. Do some galaxies evolve into these?
Repeat the question for me.
The question is that there are super galaxy clusters. And he's saying the cluster that we are currently in, they assume, they call Laniakea. As which must also be a living being. So do some galaxies evolve into superclusters?
To my understanding, some galaxies cluster together for energy manipulation. But you got to understand that there's only one life in the universe, and that life is the absolute. So we sometimes the highest being represents the life form. Just like in our body, there's hundreds of thousands, millions, probably billions of intelligent life within our body, allowing us to gain this experience right now. But we fail to recognize those other life forms that have came together to form this body. And we take this body to be our body and disregard the other life forms that made this possible. So in the galaxy, you have the galaxy, you have all the suns of the galaxies, you have the center sun of the galaxy. All of these are life forms. Then you have the life forms that's within the galaxy, the cellular life form, the insect, the animal, all the way to the human, and then even the cosmic beings, the cosmic life forms, all make up the galaxy. So in the universe, you may have the similar rotation and collection of life forms, like the galaxies that come together, the galactic lords that come together in order to do what they need to do in order to help push forward life, either through involution or evolution. And the great teachings tell us that that's what happens. I know it's kind of complicated, but it makes plenty of sense once you look at it from afar. Y'all want to add anything to that?
I think the most important thing is to understand the, I guess, the principle of how these systems come together. And there is an old saying, as above, so below. And whatever exists in a great macrocosm inevitably must exist in the microcosm. So just as the body has millions and billions of cells, as Nehemiah stated, at some point the cells come together, they give up their individual will and freedom to create tissue. And then you have innumerable amount of quote unquote tissues throughout the body. And that tissue, gives up its own individuality to create an organ. The organ in it of itself is an intelligent life form. And when you put organs together, you get a system, and you put systems together, you get the human body and so forth. So I think the most important thing, without getting into the specifics of the name of a cluster, is to understand that at some point, individual intelligent life at some point will sacrifice its own individuality and merge and amalgamate with another to create something greater. And that is the process of involution/evolution, the giving up of free will and merging yourself or your consciousness with something to create something greater than the individual.
Yeah, perfectly said.
Okay. Third question. You've already addressed this, though. Is there a difference between Jehovah and Brahma? In the 10th blessing, Dr. King states on section 8, timing 658, that Jehovah is not the absolute, but a greater Lord of creation, greater than the galaxy, which is a Lord of creation. He said that the word Jehovah was used because it has a certain vibration. In the prayer, we request that at its allotted time, Jehovah transmute the galaxy into the centers of centers within thy mind. That's a deep one.
Yeah. So without going too deep into that, Jehovah, like I said, is the galaxy. And when you go back to the Hindu and the Buddhist teachings, Jehovah, coming back to Brahma, Brahma is, the moon represents Brahma. Okay, the energy of the moon represents Brahma. We don't know where the moon came from. The moon is an advanced being that came here to sacrifice itself in order to assist the Mother Earth. and Jehovah being the galaxy, the sun being Vishnu, you know, and go and read the stories of Brahma and Vishnu and Shiva and their conversations. That it's fiction, but it has information in it to talk about it. And Vishnu, Shiva being the absolute, Vishnu being the solar lord, or the sun itself, and then Brahma being the power of the moon. And when you look at the chakra system, you'll see in the chakra system, you'll see that expressed, because the conversion points of the Granty knots represents the energy that we receive from these great cosmic gods that sustains our existence. So, and the energy that flows through them to us comes from Jehovah. So you have the earth at the lower chakras, the solar plexus, and the heart center is the sun, which represents the power of Vishnu, and then the throat center and the Christ center, or Arjuna center, some people call the third eye, represents the energy from the moon, which is Brahma. And the energy that flows through them to us, because they have to condition the energy coming from the absolute, or coming from Jehovah, and Jehovah receives the energy from the absolute, because Jehovah, the galaxy, the Lord of creation, one of the Lords of creation, the galactic Lord of creation, have to condition that energy for even the mighty suns. It receives the energy from the supreme Lords of creation, and the supreme Lords of creation receives the energy from the absolute itself. Now, the one energy that all these great galactic beings can manipulate and pull from the absolute itself is the energy of preservation. But it still goes through those channels, but it can make a mental command and pull that energy immediately from the absolute. And that's the energy of preservation. But it still goes through those channels. So yes, we receive energies from Jehovah, but it have to be conditioned by multiple gods. And of course, the Western world, they say, oh, they believe in multiple gods. No, it's not like that. Is that we give reverence to these beings because they act in a godlike manner. So, you guys have anything to say that you want to add to that, you can.
All right, so Jack, if you remember this handout that you might put together some time ago, referring to the creative source and the constitution of man, you have here the absolute and its potential releases the Vok within a framework of karma, and within that framework of karma is all of creation. So you have the supreme lords of creation, where I believe this is where the entity Jehovah would be considered. And then you have the galaxies, solar systems, and so on and so forth. So like as Nehemiah was saying, the energy is manipulated by a great being from the energy from the absolute is liberated by the lords of creation, which then is pushed down to the galaxy, then manipulate that energy, and then push it down to the suns, which then manipulates energy again and pushes it out to the planets, which again manipulates energy again, and then brings it out to terrestrial, and so on and so forth, animal kingdom of life. So as you're listening to the blessings and those teachings, it's in a couple of sentences, all volumes of information is given. You know, go back and review some of these handouts and diagrams, and it'll help you to gain a deeper appreciation and understanding of, you know, what the Master Jesus was talking about in his blessings, what Dr. George King was talking about in his lectures, what Master Mars Sector 6 is talking about, the 9 freedoms, and so on. Even in the few lines by the Master Saint Guling, introductions to some of the blessings, introductions in some of the freedoms, there's a lot of information given there as well. All right. So stop sharing that and go back to. Well, sorry, did you want to add anything, Bernard?
No, it's pretty straightforward.
Okay. Also, I did want to say there's something that Nehemiah repeatedly tells us when we were studying the teachings is to separate culture from the teachings, you can get a better appreciation for the teachings and pull out the deeper meanings from it. So if you go back and listen to like some of the old hymnals, as I remember one song in particular, Jehovah Jireh, my provider, your grace is sufficient for me. You know, go back and study those Christian and Jewish teachings without the cultural aspects of it, just strictly the teachings yourself, and you'll see quite a lot information is revealed in the Bible, in the Talmud, etc., etc. And the next question is referring to the 11th blessing. Dr. King tells us that number 1, timing point 4 minutes. The supreme lords of creation work above any mind belt because they are creators of mind belts, and they might just touched on that. So going back to the 10th blessing, prayer, in my limitation, I cannot understand how the center of centers of the mind and the greater Lord of creation, vibrating as Jehovah, can also be a supreme Lord of creation, which is above mind. Are there perhaps octaves of Jehovah?
Go back to that diagram.
Okay.
It explains itself.
Let me share that. All right, can you see it?
Yeah.
Okay.
So it kind of explains itself. So the galaxy, the supreme laws of creation, the galaxies, they are preservational centers throughout the universe. So each one of them manipulates the mind belt in order to give life to all life within their orbit or within their sphere. So you gain experience according to their specification of the necessary experience you need to gain. If you can understand that. So the same way you go into your house and you create an environment within your house to allow you to gain experience. You buy your furniture have a certain vibration to it, and you change those vibrations by the way you keep that furniture, by the way you hang your pictures, by the way you take care of everything in there. So you create your own environment by who you allow to come in your house and who you don't allow to come in your house. You create a mental environment within your home. That's why when you go home, you can replenish yourself, because you have created a center of power for yourself, a calibration power. So it's the same thing that the galaxy and the solar systems and the planet Earth does for us. When you go into cosmic consciousness on Earth, the cosmic consciousness you go into is a cosmic consciousness that the Earth have provided for you. You're connecting with the Mother Earth's cosmic consciousness. When you leave the Mother Earth and the restrictions are no longer on you, then you go into the cosmic consciousness of the planet you on, and you go into what Dr. King or the Mars Sector 6 or the Master Theorists describe as galactic consciousness. Because why? Because the restrictions, the ring past knot is not round the way the ring past knot is around the Mother Earth, because they are connected with the sun and the galaxy. And when the masters of Saturn on the high etheric realms go to the sun and act as solar lords or merge with the solar lords, they go into a greater galactic consciousness, and they manipulate the energy from the galaxy and via the sun to the solar system. That helps sustains our life, that becomes another center of preservation. Because without these great beings, we would not be able to live here. Without the Great White Brotherhood here on this earth, we could not live here. Dr. King said one time, if the spiritual hierarchy of Earth was to leave this planet, 5 minutes later, it'll be total chaos. Probably less than 5 minutes. Everything will begin to crumble. Because why? The spiritual hierarchy of Earth is a preservation force here on this planet. When you reach a certain level, you preserve all life around you. The same way, on a smaller scale, a person vacate a house, and the next thing you see, if you go back to that house 6 months later, everything is falling apart. And you say, why didn't it fall apart when the person was there? Because why? That person is giving some type of subtle energy to that house, to that environment. They created a mind belt around that house that allowed that house to sustain itself. So it's very obvious, but we don't really notice it. I hope that answered the question. You all want to add anything?
No.
Okay. And also, Jack, I think there's behind your question, a misunderstanding of mind, as Nehemiah has touched on in his response. Dr. George King defines mind as the molding and shaping of energy. Nehemiah takes it a step further, it said the molding shape energy under the intelligent karmic signatures. And when you But when you think about like, oh, you ask, well, what does that mean? It is the forms that each aspect of creation takes upon in order to fulfill a specific purpose underneath the framework of karma. So supreme lords of karma, that's a form. The galaxies are a form, suns, planets, solar systems, all the way down to our auric structure, our bodies, plants, animals, insects, and so forth. It is the mind taking that cosmic energies and under a will, expressing life in a particular form, be it a galaxy, a solar system, a planet, or a person, or a rock. Sorry, muted. One thing Nehemiah also told us is that and Dr. King told us that too, the lords of creation are partially unmanifested and manifested. Is that correct, Nehemiah? Are you saying that before?
Right.
And so if you understand that, then you can understand why we say that they're above mind. They are able to pull from that endless potential of all things in order to keep manifestation in manifestation. That makes sense.
Let's go down to, do we describe that in the slides below? Talk about the power of love. Is it in this one?
I don't think it's explicitly called love. I don't think so in this
No,
one.
it's in the other diagram where we show how it reached back into the unmanifested.
Yeah. Realms of creation, yeah. So I want to stress everyone to not look at this as just a bunch of theory. It's not.
A lot of these it's ancient teachings. It's hidden in Sanskrit terminology or some type of religious terminology that's been improperly presented. Because the more you go into it, the more say even as the Holy Bible, which 100 years after it was written, it was stated that they a group of religious scholars, I forget the name of the group, but they yeah, I mean you can look at the encyclopedia and see this, that they found 30,000 mistranslations in the Holy Bible. And you know, due to the fact that the people who translated, who wrote the Holy Bible for King James, they were not religious scholars, they were just scholars. And when the religious scholars actually went back to examine the book 100 years later, they found 30,000 mistranslations. But even with all of that, when you go to the Holy Bible, you can find Tantra yoga.
Right.
You can find karma yoga. You can find all the different yogas in there. You can find this type of information in there, but it's coded. So, and then the Torah, the same thing, you know, but it's coded and most people can't see it.
And finally, Jack, something that helped me to begin to get a basic understanding of mine, and please, Nehemiah Bernard, connect me if I'm incorrect here, is to think about on a physical level, a circuit board. The the pathways in a circuit board mold and shape the energy, electricity that flows through it. And depending on how the energy crisscrosses or how the energy is moved, it produces a specific result, be it calculation of numbers, be it the display of an image on a screen, be it the input of text. All these different results come about from the manipulation or the molding and shaping in this one energy that flows through the electricity, the electrons that flow through the pathways on a circuit board. So that's a very basic example, but it helped me to understand, okay, so depending on how these pranas flow through nadis or the kundalini flows through the nadis, when they crisscross, it's called, or it's a point of consciousness. And so depending on how they crisscross or how many times they crisscross, a particular result is formed. This happens when you have this crossing, this happens when you have that crossing, this happens when you have this combination of energy, this happens when you have that combination of energy. And so all of that is under an intelligent signature of karma. And when we apply that intelligence to the manipulation of energy, we can get a specific result. And when intelligence is applied to mind, the molding or shaping of energy, you have planets, you have animals, and so on and so forth. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct. Okay. I mean, I think Bernard could probably
do it better. Yeah, explain it better.
Because he's the engineer, but it's correct. Yeah.
Okay. Let's move on to the next question. This is finally, if the Mother Earth is a perfect disciple of the galaxy. I don't know where you got that, Jack. If the Mother Earth is a perfect disciple of the galaxy and the galaxy can go directly back to the absolute, could Terra follow the same pathway? For by her wondrous selfless action, she proves how near unto her source she really be. That's a quote from the seventh blessing. Or does she have to complete her life cycles? Which life is she on now? Says, I've heard that Saturn is on its 8th incarnation, whereas planets are only supposed to have 7. Before you answer that, Nehemiah goes specifically into that question. It now comes back to he actually answered that in the 12 Blessings series and the Teachings in Dr. Sri Yogi Retreat series. He specifically goes into, I think when he's talking about the 7th blessing, he goes into the history of the Mother Earth. And there's also a series on the teachings of Blavatsky, where he talks about, I don't think we got that on camera though, because I remember just starting to attend when he was giving that series. But I think in subsequent series, he goes about into the theosophical teachings. It talks about the history of the Mother Earth, the history of the life forms, the life streams that have been on the earth prior to man's arrival here, which life she is currently on, and he also briefly touches on, if you listen closely, the necessity of the prime initiation taking place when it did in this current incarnation of the Mother Earth, and talks about the cycles that planets go through and why Saturn is on an 8th incarnation. So do go back and take a look at that series. Dr. George King talks about it as well. You may have missed it when you were listening to the
Cosmic Plan.
To the cosmic plan, that lecture.
Yeah, he gives a 2-part lecture of the cosmic plan. There's a diagram there from Blavatsky. Talks about the I think the yogas.
The yugas, yeah.
The yugas, right? Where we specifically look at the Mother Earth.
Yes, I have it here.
And the Mother Earth is in its, according to.
This is one of them.
Position, yeah, the Mother Earth is in its 3rd incarnation. And Dr. King came and told us, or was Marsic the 6th through Dr. King told us that she's at her half-life, and she has another 3 billion years to go before she go back to the sun and moves back out or into her fourth incarnation from the sun. Now, Madam Blavatsky claims that she claims that the Earth takes on a higher energy. It's not really absorbed back into the sun, but it takes on a higher energy, and it takes on layers of from that higher energy, layers of dirt or crust comes from that.
Say that again.
The way she talks about it is that it takes on this energy, and the layers of Earth compound itself or something like that. And all life is modified on Earth when she moves to these different levels. And she also claimed that if you psychically, if you could see it, you could see trails of the Mother Earth from the different realms. In other words, it might be 7 to 9 different Earths on different vibrational levels, moving around the sun. And those are like the other rims of the Earth or something like that. Which could make sense because we know on some rims a day or an hour can be months. You know, our hour or day or could be months on some rims, or it can be minutes on other rims. And time is measured by the circulation of the sun. So yeah, so we went through this. If I don't know if you recorded this lecture or not.
I don't think so.
So
I don't think so. I remember I was just starting to really attend around that time, and I was really confused about the Madam Blavatsky teachings and so for that. So I don't know if I was recording at that time.
but this is Dr. George King and Madam Blavatsky combined, because that's what I was doing here. I was bringing both of the teachings together. Alice Bailey, Madam Blavatsky, and Dr. George King. Or the Master KH through Alice Bailey.
There may be a, let me see and look through the playlist. Open discussions. There may be a series here. It may not be in a series form. It may just be a couple of videos. But if we do have something, I'll assemble it and put it into a playlist and let everyone know. Also, DeMario, yes, there is a link in the description with the a link directly to our Google Drive shared folder. most of these handouts should be there. Not everything is there, because sometimes I'll pull from there'll be a chapter or two from a book anybody's working on or has already published, and so that's not going to be in the shared folder, or some handouts that we're still working through that are not there. But if you see anything in today's open discussion or previous open discussions and you go back to the folder and it's not there, do send us an email. And if you can include a description or a title, like for example, for this handout you see up, I don't know if it's there, but if you can say, okay, the handout is titled A Little History and Knowledge of the Mother Earth. Okay, that lets me know which one you're referring to. And if it's not there, I'll make a new folder and I'll post it there. So, you can see, or any other handout you see in the past classes. If it's not in the shared folder, just send us an email and I'll toss it up in maybe a 2023 folder, because I think the shared folder is organized as years when we covered a particular set of handouts or subject matter. So Jack, what's your question? No, I don't think the Mother Earth can just can go straight back to the absolute. If you read the 9 freedoms, although that evolutionary path that was given the 9 freedoms was given to humans, particularly pertaining to humanity, the planets follow the same life stream. So we talk about the Mother Earth being an amalgamation of consciousness to become a logos, and that logos taking on the body of a planet, and then as the body of a planet, it provides service to the life streams that live upon it. It will also go through its 7 incarnations. Within after 7 incarnations, it moves on to becoming, correct, a sun, and then from the solar existence, it goes on further and further and further and further, all the way back, evolutionary path based upon the law of karma to the absolute. She has to complete her life cycles. I think they might just mention which life she's on now. I think she's in her 3rd incarnation now. I just mentioned that. And I've heard that Saturn is on its 8th incarnation. So Dr. George King talks about this in the Saturnian existence.
It's as simple as this. Everything is solidified what?
Sunlight.
So
Well,
that's how simple it is. That you have to go through that stage to become a producer of light that forms all what? It forms all energy and matter.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have to move to the level of a galactic level where you control the life of the suns that give them the subtle energy to manifest material on all levels of existence. And then you have to move to the level of the galactic lords level, the supreme laws of creation, where you give the power to the galaxies, or the universe. So it's just that simple. And you at that level where you could transform matter from any level all the way to the unmanifested, back to the unmanifested level, which is the pure state of the absolute, the all potential, this stillness that has that all potential come from, that everything comes from. Where they say the endless potential of creation. I know he's talking about in some teachings, they talk about that if you say this or do this or reach this level, then you can be absorbed back into the absolute and skip over all of this.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it was in the little simple book that either the advanced course from Yoga Ramataraka or Nana Yoga, where they say if that was to happen, then within that moment, they would experience every life that they had to go through over billions of years within a second. In order to, because they still have to go through the stages. So time will accelerate in the moments of them moving forward to that level. And everything with them will have to accelerate too. All the life forms that they are supporting. Because the law is the law. Because think about all the hundreds of thousands of lives that we're supporting by breathing. You know, that's why they say when a person dies off the physical plane or any plane, they say the gods cry. Because why? That's experience that hundreds of thousands of life forms would not gain, would not be experiencing anymore in order to move forward. So it's just not the human life, it's all the life within our bodies. Although we go into another thing, but we don't take everything with us. Not on this physical plane.
Right.
On the astral plane, we take everything with us. But on the physical plane, on the astral and etheric plane, on the physical plane, no. We leave the remains and they have to be picked up and start over again.
And that's all the questions that were emailed to us. Anyone have any questions? If you're viewing us on YouTube, and feel free to post any questions or comments you have in the chat. I'll answer those for you. Got about another 40 minutes. Last time when we were looking at the transcripts, we finished, or we stopped at a discussion on the nadis, and I was reading documents that contained more information about the nadic system. I think this is an extract from a part of a book that Emma was working on. And I remember saying I wanted to go into the actual, some of the nadis and give names to them. And I was going to go through this handlet as well. We might not have time to do all of that, but we will hop over and carry on with at least a couple of lines in the transcript and a couple of sections in the nadi system document. I do see we have a question here. How do you develop, what is the correct way to develop a deeper state of concentration? When I sit down cross-legged, concentrating, I feel heat and electricity from my abdomen to my head, then my whole body.
I think I gave multiple classes on this. Did I?
Yes, you gave actually several concentration techniques So most of them were in the Mystic Practice series, which is no longer available. But even outside of that, you get a couple of concentration practices and defined concentration and contemplation as well.
Yeah, the best way, one of the best ways to develop your concentration is through pranayama, and which is a part of Raja Yoga. It's a part of the yogas, but it's a part of Raja Yoga, and is breath control practices. In the breath control, in most breathing practices, you have multiple yogas going on there. If you do it correctly, it's Raja Yoga, Pranayama Yoga, and you Mudra Yoga and Mantra Yoga, and Hatha Yoga. And if you're doing it correctly, Kama and Bhatha Yoga. Kama Yoga is the yoga of action, or the yoga of laws, because all action and all actions is procedure and law, or it holds the ingredients to a resort. So when you cross your legs and sit erect, or in crossing your legs, I hope you're crossing your legs in a lotus position in order to bring pressure to the spinal column, the bottom of the root chakra, the Muladhara chakra. That's one of the reasons why you do that. And it caused a reaction in doing this, and that's called Mudra Yoga. It's also a part of Kama Yoga, and then you balance it with Bhatha Yoga, because Bhatha Yoga is a devotion, it's a yoga to devote yourself to God. So when you do that, you immediately have to recognize the presence of God, because in order to align the energies, Ida and Pagala, then you must recognize the absolute, because the Shushuna that you're trying to align the energies with is a sacred pathway back to the Godhead. They call it the Brahmanati. So you have to do Bhatha Yoga with Raja Yoga, with Kundalini, with Kama Yoga, and Mudra Yoga, which is the yoga of hand signs and positions. Bhatha Yoga is the yoga of devotion to God. Raja Yoga is the yoga of mental development. Pranayama is the yoga to control the pranas within the body and outside of the body. And then Jnana Yoga is the wisdom to actually put Kama Yoga and all other yogas into action, because all yogas come from Jnana and Kama Yoga. So there's a series that I think I go into this in the Tantra Yoga series so that you can understand it. But concentration is being able to direct all your thoughts down one channel. And you do that by using a series of yoga methods to enhance your concentration by inhibiting your movement and your thoughts. And when you do that long enough, then from concentration, you will leap into contemplation, where your whole auric system, your body, the auric body, the chakras, everything, because everything is within the auric body, the chakras, and all. What it will become a magnet, and you will begin to receive information and energy from everything, from outside of you and within you. And then it'll take some time to regulate those thoughts and energies through concentration again. And then you will begin to go through a series of visions, a series of enhanced sight, hearing, smelling, tasting, touching, and that's where the cities come. All the different cities, clairvoyance, clairaudience, clairsensitive, psychometry, astral projection, etheric projection. Then you go into the higher states of consciousness. And then you have to regulate all of this with samyama, which is the control of these cities, so that you can inhibit the cities and go into higher states of consciousness. I hope that answers your question. And the higher states of consciousness is true meditation, because you have to inhibit the concentration and contemplation, which takes you into meditation. And meditation is bringing all the energies of the body into Shushumna and moving into a conscious state of death. And then you will experience true meditation and cosmic consciousness, and then samadhi. You want to add anything? You guys want to add anything?
No, I'll just say never underestimate the power of deep breathing and what it can do for concentration, and
Right.
how much it really stills your mind as the first step.
There were a series of handouts and notes that you might have produced regarding concentration, contemplation, meditation. I don't know if you guys can see it on your screen. This one is, I found the Visio, but I don't find the PDF for it. Or I actually have it somewhere. I'll look it up. And I'll put it in the shared folder. But there may be a series of classes by the same title. And a playlist that you can look at. Also, when talking about Raj Yoga and meditation, there's actually a couple of classes where the topic of meditation is focused on. Take a look at that as well. And I think this is where these notes were given. I'll look for the PDF counterpart of this. This is the Visio that they might have sent us to go over and to make edits with, and then translate into PDF and then upload into the shared folder. I wasn't able to pull up the PDF while Anima was responding, but I think we can read through this to close out today's class. Before, let me check to see if there's any other questions. 1 second. If there's any additional questions. If not, I'll read through the concentration, contemplation, and meditation document, as well as go over the handout. What was the name of that course? Yeah, this is from, it's in my files that I had downloaded from MeetUp. So these were created a long time ago. I can't remember the exact class.
It wasn't the psychic development class, psychic and spiritual development.
I think so. Let me go back. Let me look for that. That sounds right.
It probably was a PowerPoint, like
Yes, yes. Yeah.
80-page PowerPoint.
Tantra yoga and psychic advancement development. Yes, that's it. That was a whole set of PDFs. I'm sorry, PowerPoint presentations. It's actually used for training.
I think it was part of the workshop series.
Yes. Yeah, Tantra yoga and psychic development. There's a 4-part, a 5-part series actually.
That diagram was a supplement to that, I think.
Yes, it was. So let me just go through that now. I'll use this one for now, and then we'll come back and where is Zoom? Concentration. I need to wait for Zoom to move. Is the ability to direct and focus the full conscious mind on one subject, or one object or subject without interruption for long periods of time. It brings about a focus of the mind that leads to an arrest of the mental modification of the basic valence levels of the auric mental magnetic fields around the human subtle and physical bodies, thereby giving man the ability to take the full conscious mind's power and collect information on a single object or subject, allowing him to increase all sensory perception while performing concentration. He takes on the titles of smart, intelligent, teacher, genius, leader, etc. Constant concentration leads to an increase of all sensory perception power. Okay. So when he says here, arrest of the mental modifications, think back to some other classes where we looked at the structure of the aura, the different types of karma, and the verities or the modifications, and how our thoughts and actions leave impressions or samskaras in the aura, and there's positive, neutral, and negative samskaras. So look back at those notes as lectures, and you'll understand more about what these mental modifications are and how they inhibit us from performing concentration, or the arrest of these mental modifications in the layers of the aura allow us to develop concentration. From concentration, see here in this illustration here, concentration levels as it's relating to the psychic centers or the chakras within the aura. from the Muladhara, the base of the spine chakra, the sex chakra, and the solar plexus chakra. These are a basic frequencies of mind, and in concentration, we move up these frequencies of mind. So see here on this in this arrow here, as we move up from the base of the solar plexus, a basic or partial rise of Kundalini through a concentrated frame of mind and actions. All right, so concentration, developing higher and higher levels of concentration moves us up to higher and higher frequencies of mind. The next we have contemplation is the ability to bring about a deep state of concentration on an object or subject, but being able to leave the mind open to receive new information on that object or subject, which demonstrates itself as clairvoyant powers. In concentration, you direct the senses of the mind on an object, but in contemplation, you not only direct and place the mind's senses on an object, you receive new information from that object on the physical, emotional, mental, and psychic levels. Contemplation takes man's perception of life from a plain mental physical level of existence to a psychic mental physical and psycho-spiritual level of existence. Contemplation is a merger of physical and astral senses that produces basic and medium psychic abilities. Then it eventually, through constant use, allows man to merge the psychic senses with the higher etheric senses, which operates from the upper chakras, which are the heart chakra and up. Constant contemplation leads to a super conscious level of mind. All right, so the constant practice of concentration, it allows us to develop contemplation, which moves from the heart chakra on upward. It says here a basic and mid-level partial rise of Kundalini through a concentrated and contemplated psychic frame of mind and actions. And then from there, we move into meditation. Meditation is man's ability to move the mind into the deepest levels of concentration and contemplation, bringing all the powers of mind and the vital life force all to the point of raising man's consciousness to an supra conscious state of mind. Concentration gives mankind the ability to naturally bring about a basic partial rise of Kundalini through a concentrated frame of mind and actions. Contemplation allows mankind. I'm sorry, I saw you unmute yourself. Did you want to say something, Maya?
No, I was losing your voice.
Oh, okay. Contemplation allows mankind to also bring about a basic and mid-level partial rise of Kundalini through a concentrated and contemplated psychic frame of mind and actions. Meditation brings about a very high level of partial and full rise of Kundalini through deep levels of concentration, contemplation, and meditation that brings about an ultra-psychic frame or super conscious state of mind, which gives mankind the ability to receive highly spiritual states of mind frequency, giving the ability to translate the creative karmic laws that frames our very existence. Meditation can be described as the soul being bathed in the light of the spirit. Through constant practice of contemplation, this gives the practitioner the power over the life forces within the body. This also helps to bring about extreme abilities of deep and prolonged periods of concentration and contemplation, which is needed to take the practitioner to a level of true meditation. At the level of meditation, which is said to be brought about by the ability to compress the power of 12 hours of deep concentration into a few seconds or minutes in order to trigger a state of true meditation, which is the power needed to take all the life forces of the body and concentrate it into and on the dormant power of Kundalini in order to unlock it. Okay. Then you see here on this third arrow with meditation levels, and it goes all the way up to the Christ. A higher level of partial and full range of Kundalini, full rays of Kundalini through deep levels of concentration, contemplation, and meditation that brings an ultra psychic frame of super conscious mind. Did you want to add anything, Nehemiah, before I continue on?
No, go ahead.
Okay. All right. So now we look at the we're going to take a look at the Nadic flow pertaining particularly to Sushumna and see how concentration, contemplation, and meditation corresponds to the movement of Kundalini through these nadis. And what you'll see on the left-hand side is these different colored illustrations which describes, for example, this solid red here is the movement in concentration. And then you have this yellow with red core represents the movement in contemplation. And then the yellow with the blue core represents the movement in meditation. Concentration in plain English, the yogi through Raja Yoga and several other methods uses concentration techniques to bring about a singularity of mind at will, thereby gaining the ability to willfully move concentrated mental pressures to push the flow of prana through the positive and negative nadic channels. And you see here, moving through Sushumna and the sex center, the solid red there representing concentration. Contemplation. These long periods of mental concentration push the yogi to a point where he gains the power of contemplation. This is where he begins receiving abstract information from the subtle senses, which results from his singularity of mind. This power of contemplation brings forth psychic abilities that allow the practitioner to bring about longer periods of singularity of mind, giving him a greater power over larger quantities of the subtle and physical life forces. Through constant practice of contemplation, this gives the practitioner the power over the life forces within the body. And that moves away from the solar plexus to the heart center in the illustration. And then finally we come to meditation. This also helps to bring about extreme abilities of deep and long periods of concentration and contemplation, which is needed to take the practitioner to a level of true meditation. At the level of meditation, by the compressing of 12 hours of deep concentration into a few seconds or minutes, that level of deep concentration is needed to trigger a true state of meditation, which is the power needed to take all of the life force of the body and concentrate it in the dormant power of Kundalini in order to unlock it. Dr. George King refers to that as a conscious state of death. In true meditation, all of the life force, like say, for example, if Kundalini is being raised in full to the sex center or to the solar plexus center, then everything below, from the solar plexus below, all the life force is drawn out of the legs, out of the lower extremities, and it is concentrated in the sex center. Kundalini energy is removed from the legs and brought up to the solar plexus in order to can trigger a full awakening of the Kundalini power and awakening of that psychic center, of that chakra. The yogi at that point is unable to walk, is unable to move because there is no life force in the legs. And as you move the Kundalini energy up higher and higher, everything below where the full rays of Kundalini is stationed at is in a conscious state of death. This Sushumna Nadic flow of energy carries a Shakti quality of the preservational forces of all cosmic energies. The Sushumna Nadic line of force holds consciousness in manifestation on several planes, lokas, of existence, and allows man to gain countless lifetimes of valuable experience. It is said that the Sushumna Nadi has 3 inner channels, which we'll look at in a bit and are delineated in the illustration, that seem to compress all the qualities of Shakti force of the Nadic and chakra system into one minute channel that pushes upward and forward, opening the major chakras and giving tremendous power over the cosmic energies and divine energies, placing man's conscious awareness on a supra-conscious level. All right, so we have the 3 layers that we're talking about of Sushumna. We have the Sushumna Nadi, and then within it, the Vajra Nadi, the Tritra Nadi, and the Brahma Nadi. There's other illustrations where Nima goes into more detail about those layers and the types of energies that move through them. The first layer of the Nadic vibrations within the Sushumna Nadi is called Vajra Nadi, a conduit inside the central channel that extends from the genital region to the head region. The Vajra is described as a hard substance like diamonds, hard but lustrous, with the light and the power of thunderbolts. It is said that this layer of Sushumna Nadis, the Vajra Nadi, is the place where the sexual energy Ojas connects with the brain. Ojas is the highest form of base physical manifested energy in the human body, which is a concentrated form of semen. And it is from the Ojas that all the other tissues, it's called datus or dutas, I forget the exact word in Ayurveda, are fed and come from. The second inner layer of the Sushumna Nadi is called Tritra Nadi. The configuration of this Tritra Nadic force is of a sattvic quality, a pure Shakti force or fire, Agni, sun, Surya, and moon, Chandra, at its highest level of equilibrium throughout every level of its channel. These 3 energy configurations are known as the 3 aspects of Sabda Brahman. Within the Tritra Nadi is the Brahma Nadi, where the pure cosmic energy of evolution flows as the power of Kundalini. It is the Kundalini power that travels through the Brahma Nadi, where all major chakras resides. As the Kundalini power passes through this channel, it opens each chakra that resides along this inner path of Sushumna Brahma Nadi that brings man from a limited conscious state to an expanded conscious state. And then from here, we go into more points about concentration, particularly when the introduction of the control over the following. And then we'll also go into the power of contemplation. Let me just pause really quick to see if we have any questions. Okay, Ezra. Hope I'm saying your name properly. Is it possible to add Turkish subtitles later on? Ezra, I would love to add Turkish subtitles, but the very best I can do will be using Google Translate. And that would miss a lot of the subtleties in the subtitles. If you or some of you know would be willing to volunteer to add Turkish translation to our videos, then reach out to us and be more than happy to provide any assistance you need in translating and subtitling, providing subtitles for the videos. Okay, so let me, there's no further questions or comments. Let me just finish up reading through these two, and then that'll take us out for today's class. And then we'll close with reciting of the New Lord's Prayer. And then next week, we'll pick up with, or next time, we'll pick up with the transcript. We're gonna probably go a little bit over today, but that's okay because we had a bit of a late start. Back into presentation mode. And let's resume share. Concentration. Concentration introduces control over the following. We'll go from left to right. We have the metaphysical structure of man's mind. That's through Jnana, Karma, Bhakti, and Raja Yoga techniques. And something interesting about this, for those who are asking me questions about Tantra Yoga, the title of the series and name I was referring to earlier, where this information was inserted into, is development of psychic ability, psychic development through Tantra Yoga. Remember, Tantra Yoga is the looming together of the yogas. So in Tantra Yoga is Nani, Karma, Bhakti, Hatha, Karma, Raja, and so on and so forth. So it's through these, through Tantra, through Nani, through Karma, Bhakti, Raja, we gain control over the metaphysical structure of man's mind, which leads to the realizing the unlimited and endless power and life of the spirit, realizing the expressed power of the soul through its vehicles of operation, the supra and super conscious mind, the realms or state of mind that the soul works through near its full aspect, the supreme part of man's consciousness, the subconscious mind, the automatic, functional, and memory storage part of mind, also in a reactive and in operation. That is the background power distributor for all actions. And the conscious mind, that part of the mind that we use to perceive and express ourselves in the outside world. This operates on a physical and astral realms. Then we move.
It's always psychic and spiritual development.
Yeah, sorry. That is the title of the series, yes.
That's very important because I don't believe in just going after psychic powers. You have to be balanced with spiritual development as well.
Right.
Go ahead.
Okay. Conscious mind through Raja, Nani, Bhakti, and Raja, Karma, Bhakti, and Nani Yoga. Reducing the wandering and scattered mind effect. Remember, we're, in other words, stopping the modifications. reducing the dullness of the mind by becoming the witness of the mind's activity or modifications, developed a focused mind by withdrawing the senses from external objects, slowly directing the mind towards an object or subject of concentration, and develop control of mind by being able to channel all thought activity in one direction. Right? Next, we move to the man's basic self and emotional bodies. And through Raja, Karma, Bhakti, and Jnana Yoga, we gain control over the accumulated negative karmic patterns embedded in the subtle structures of man's auric fields. In control over the basic self of man, developed from countless reincarnations of man, which has built up a personality foundation that our true intelligence is filtered through. And then the knowledge for controlling the influx of emotional impact and of accumulated desires embedded in man's character, referring again here to the impurities such as desire, pride, anger and jealousy, attachment, greed, selfishness, hatred, malice, delusion, passion, and lust. And those are those impurity traits we talked a little bit earlier. Again, you can go back to those handouts and those talks about some skaras and the karmic types of karma and the impacts it has on our aura and our incarnations. And then finally, we have introduces control over the mental, physical techniques of concentration through Hatha, Raja, Karma, Bhakti, and Jnana Yoga. You gain the right knowledge and perspective of the omnipresence and absoluteness of God, use of the mystic knowledge for karmic moral correctness, which grants purification, the practice of prayer, Bhakti and Karma Yoga, Mantra Yoga and Pranayama techniques, Raja, Bhakti, and Karma Yoga, and the constant practice of the above techniques, along with concentrative meditation visualization practices. Right? It's concentration, and then it leads to the power of contemplation, introduces control over the metaphysical meaning behind the word contemplation, control over the following. Through Jnana, Karma, Bhakti, and Raja Yoga, a metaphysical meaning is a deep concentration on one object, with the mind left open to receive new information. The subtle and physical functions of contemplation is an amalgamation of the physical and astral senses, which produces psychic powers or extrasensory perception. This also means that a partial raise of Kundalini has happened, at least to the sex chakra, and maybe a little to the solar plexus chakra. When deep contemplation occurs, the practitioner reaches the point where he can merge his psychic senses with the etheric senses that operates on the higher psychic centers or chakras. Contemplation and its control over man's mind. These psychic senses of contemplation allows man to have deeper and longer periods of mental concentration. The conscious mind slowly but surely becomes the tool of the soul, fired by the power of Kundalini. With the power of contemplation, man begins to realize that Kundalini is the true vehicle of consciousness. The contemplation brings about the constant use of the samyama on the concentrated objects and subjects, which creates a large and fluid pathway for the sacred power of Kundalini, which has risen, as it rises and falls during the act of performing samyama on the objects and subjects of contemplation. And finally, the power and knowledge of contemplation in use. Through contemplation, the cosmic energies of prana will be known as the psychic fires of life that awakens the pathways of the nadis and synchronizes the petals of the chakras. Through contemplation, the secrets of mantra reveal themselves in the long periods of japa practice. Through contemplation, the root words of mantra will be known, harnessed, and placed on the chakras for synchronization in true prayer to the God within by opening the door to the all-knowledge space, the bindu. And through contemplation, the residue deposits of Kundalini will be placed on the 4 chakras below the 5th and act as a priming factor for the full rise of the sacred power of Kundalini. Okay. All right, so I hope that helped you out a bit in your question regarding concentration and in the proper way to develop it. And if you guys have any further questions or comments, you can feel free to email us at mysticknowledgecenter, all one word, @gmail.com. And Ezra as well, if you'd like to volunteer to help us out with those Turkish translations, do send us an email and we'll be in touch with you. If there are any final questions or comments, or anything you guys want to add, Nehemiah, Bernard?
Yeah, you could show them well, there's a couple lectures I go over that, and then also Contact Your Higher Self Through Yoga book from the
Yes.
There's Society, and also the Science of Breath by Yoga Ramacharaka. And Swami Vivekananda's Raja Yoga book. I think the Serpent Power is a little bit too deep to get into it again. But those 3 books are good books to help understand.
Give me a second while I'm pulling up everything that Nehemiah just mentioned so I can show you guys where to pull all that down. Okay, so we'll start here. So a couple of the books that I mentioned. Go to mystickknowledge.org, its website. And under the ebook library link, you'll have access to dozens of books that you can download, sorted by author. The first one will take you to some of Vivekananda's books, and several others. There's books here on psychic development, spiritual development. And I believe it's link 1 where Yogi Ramacharaka, those books he mentioned, they're here. So it's mystickknowledge.org. And then under the ebook library, you can go to ethereus.org and under shop, books, and Contact Your Higher Self Through Yoga. And this text is series of pranayama techniques is given, as well as additional practices. And then the material covered in Contact Your Higher Self Yoga is expanded upon another text that they have available called Realizing the Potential, the Path of the Self Yoga. And that's the another text you can pick up as well. And then on our channel, again, under playlist, there's, oh, here it is, a detailed study into the power of prayer. That's what I was talking about earlier. Sorry, guys. There's understanding mystic knowledge of tantric yoga, That's one playlist you can listen to. Mystic Science of Raja Yoga is there as well. The Tantra Yoga lecture series, and as well as the teachings of Dr. Sri Yogi Richard George King. So he goes into detail about concentration and contemplation and how it's used. Spiritual development. I also believe in the how-to series, a couple of practices are given. To help develop your concentration and expansion on some of the pranayama practices that's given in the Science of Breath by Yoga Charaka, and also contact your higher self. All right. Are there any final questions or comments? Let's take a look here. All right. There's no further questions or comments. Let us close out today's session for reciting of the New Lord's Prayer. The New Lord's Prayer. Divine and wondrous Spirit, O everlasting Lord of hosts, send forth now through me thy great and lasting power. Allow me, Almighty God, the lasting privilege of radiating to all the world thy great love, so that those who suffer may be given the power and energy to rise above their weaknesses. Almighty God, in great humility do I ask you to send forth your power, to give to me this great lasting privilege of being a channel, so that my suffering brothers may be helped and guided and healed and lifted into thy light, so that they who know not may look up, and in doing so receive to their higher selves your divine counsel. Almighty God, this day have you granted me a divine privilege. I ask you now to give to me the strength, so that never again will I turn from my inner vision of you. Oh, great peace, great peace, great peace. In praise of your greatness, O God, doth my soul sing. Grant it energy to sing on forever and forever. All right, thank you very much, everyone, for your kind attendance and participation. Once again, if you have any further questions or comments, do feel free to send us an email, mysticknowledgecenter@gmail.com. And if there's any other subjects you would like us to cover in future sessions, or any requests for anything, again, send us an email and we'll gladly address those for you. Thank you very much, everyone, and we'll see you next time. Take care.
Nehemiah, don't hang up. Or Dwayne.
Okay.
Dwayne, you still got your kit. You still got your toolkit for.
Well, let me stop streaming first. Let me stop streaming.
Oh, okay.